And we're going to get the ball rolling again with our next presenter, Eric Sanchez. Eric lives in Southern California. He's a software engineer at Imgix, where he's spearheading AI development for multiple image processing features. He studied at the University of California, Berkeley, where he competed in a challenge to create a company in 16 weeks, finishing in second place. And I have questions. And he put his studies on hold for 3.5 years to go enter the industry and gain startup experience. And Eric has also served as a United States Marine Corps veteran and served in OEF. He's an avid distance runner who needs to get his weekly miles in. And now that I already have a handful of questions for Eric, I'm going to hand it over. Really excited for this presentation. Let's give it up for Eric Sanchez.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining me to talk about smarter, faster, more beautiful AI-powered image transformation. As you know, my name is Eric Sanchez. I'm a senior software engineer at Imgix. A little bit about me. This is actually me. We submit these speaker photos in advance, and I've just cut my hair, grown a beard. If you only showed up today for the luscious locks, the hair, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm excited to be here today. I get to talk about AI. It's something that I'm passionate about, and hopefully you are as well. Right now, my work at Imgix falls somewhere between software engineering and ML ops, but enough about me. Let's go ahead and get into it. So we've all seen the magic of stable diffusion. It can bring your imagination to life by painting it in pixels. You can create incredible art in an instant, and you only need to type the magical incantation into the text prompt to cast these kinds of spells. Oftentimes when we think about AI and images, we think about generative art. However, a lot of online businesses face a different challenge. The images these businesses place on the internet represent goods and services, and the objective of this imagery is to show the goods or services in the most appealing way and accurate way possible. Let me go back one slide here. For example, let's say I run an e-commerce business. In a perfect world, all the vendors I work with use the same photographer. Each product photo is high quality and high resolution, and the background of each image fits perfectly with the style of my website. That would be great, but we don't live in a perfect world. Sometimes we wish we could create, or sometimes we wish you can increase the resolution of an image to bring it in line with the resolution of the rest of our product photos. Other times we may want to remove and replace the background of product photos to match the style of our product gallery. Knowing how you want to transform images is usually the easy part. And as simple as these transformations sound, they can be difficult to implement. Anyone who's tried to remove a background by hand knows how time-consuming it can be. Fortunately, this is where AI excels. So AI enables someone like me, the developer, to achieve these kinds of visual effects that would be difficult or impossible for me to achieve otherwise. It saves time and resources through automation. Our designers use background removal and they love it. They're always telling me how much time it saved them. And finally, it significantly improves the end user experience. Our users are typically developers like myself, and I know I love finding an easy to use API that does the thing that I want. So let's take a look at some use cases. Let's run with the example of an e-commerce company. I have multiple colors, styles, and product lines from different seasons. And with so many images, it can be difficult to track them all. An AI-based asset manager, which is what you see here, can automatically add tags that describe the attributes and features of product images. It can assist in categorizing inventory and streamlining the inventory management process. I'm also glad that there's these real-world use cases for the things I enjoy working on. And look, I'm going to go a little off script here and say, I don't have an e-commerce company personally, but I still have this problem. I'm looking for an image and I don't remember what I've named it. And it's just so much easier to search for blue jeans or something like that instead of remembering a file name or when I took or saved the photo. And sometimes I wish I could do this kind of search on my laundry. If that tech exists, please send me a link because I want it. And so, smart image tagging is great for building categories for search or organization. It's also helpful to detect risky or risque content. This is the internet after all, and there's some bad content out there, whether it's hateful, graphic, not safe for work, or just not safe for your site. It can damage user trust. Computer vision can help you detect this kind of content. Maybe your site has a lot of user-generated content, or maybe you need help reviewing content from vendors or third parties. And monitoring these images one by one is time-consuming. AI makes this problem easier to solve. Sensitive content alerts can be used to monitor and moderate the content uploaded by users, ensuring it adheres to your community standards and policies. And so while this use case covers the content we may not want to show, the next deals with the content we do want to show. Today, consumers have a huge selection of devices and browsers to select from. For developers, this means we have to anticipate hundreds of device and browser permutations, and it's exhausting. One image dimension cannot fit all environments. Even if you generate dozens of image derivatives on the back end, it can still fall short of the optimal user experience. It's a taxing problem. You not only need to size the images correctly to achieve great performance across devices, you also need to account for art direction, things like focal point cropping for correct perspective and composition. So with person and object-aware cropping, each image is dynamically cropped to focus on the most important parts of an image. The best part, it's all processed on the fly, adapting perfectly to each user's device and environment. So going back to one of the first examples, image background removal can be a powerful tool. Whether you want to isolate products from the backgrounds or reduce visual distractions, or replace the background to suit various themes and campaigns. The advantage of an AI solution like this is you don't have to worry about some of the fine-grained details, like removing the background from that also has the model's hair in it or something like that. Which can take a skilled designer a long time to get right. And honestly, in my opinion, AI-based automatic background removal is already ubiquitous. I know a lot of skilled designers using these kinds of AI features in Photoshop. This is also a feature that's near and dear to my heart. This is my project, my baby. I'm happy to see it succeed and be demoed here. So after my team and I finished background removal, we were tasked with implementing AI-powered super resolution. And I'm happy to say this is out in production today. So super resolution or image upscaling is a way to increase the resolution of images while preserving their quality. We created this feature so you can easily revive older photos, enhance user-generated content, and increase image resolution at scale. And this bit of generative AI is done on the fly. Our primary API is query parameters on image URLs. So to upscale an image via Imgix or super resolution, you only need to add this upscale equals true query parameter, which we'll see in the following demo. All right. I'm going to go ahead and switch to our demo today. So we're going to see how these features are used in practice to improve an e-commerce site. But before we do, we're going to build some intuition for how the API works. We have a low resolution image we want to upscale. We can see that this JPEG is grainy at 45 kilobytes with a resolution of about 300 by 500 pixels, which you can see right here. And so we'll add the upscale parameter to this URL. Like I said, this is just query parameters on URL. That's the API. And we'll submit the request again. We see that the result loaded quickly because it was cached and served via CDN. I have my browser cache disabled. If we were to upload a new image and request it with the upscale parameter, It would take a few seconds on the first request, and subsequent requests would be fast due to caching. The upscale image is higher quality, but it's also heavier. So at 2.7 megabytes, so much bigger than the original. But we see that it is 4 times larger in terms of resolution. And so now this is like where I think some of the like Imgix magic comes in and like the non-AI stuff, but it's still super cool. We can apply compression and request the next generation image format, which is what these params do here. And we'll see the result is 10 kilobytes smaller than the original, while still being 4 times larger in terms of resolution. And here's a side-by-side comparison of the same thing. The original's on the left, and we'll be using the upscale parameter on the right. And this gets us a resolution, higher resolution, higher quality image that is heavier. Then we'll go in and add compression and choose the best performing image format. AVIF, it's going to be AVIF in this case. We'll see that here. So the original low quality image is 45 kilobytes, and the AI upscaled image, when we're all said and done, is 33 kilobytes. The title of this talk is Smarter, Faster, More Beautiful. And this is part of our mission where I work. When I first heard this, I thought it was cool, but as an engineer, I was skeptical. Typically, when I hear faster, I think compression, which means less information or less beautiful or lower quality or something like that. However, I guess seeing is believing, and while being skeptical is still part of my job, the image on the right is clearly smarter, faster, and more beautiful, to me at least. All right, and now we're going to get into like a more practical demo, or how you would use this on one of your sites. So here we have a mock e-commerce site we've been talking about, and we're going to use it to demo a few of the things we've seen in the slides. This shop sells cameras, hats, shoes, purses, but we can see that these product photos aren't as uniform as we'd like them to be. So let's work on that. This first camera is small and in the lower third of the image, and we have similar issues with these hats. So this one's cropped off at the top. This wicker hat is too far in the background, and this other hat is not centered the way that we'd like it to be. So we're going to use that intelligent auto cropping I showed earlier to help us fix this. So today I'm working in JavaScript using our React Imgix component, but remember, I'm really just adding query parameters to URLs. So here I'll set the value of fit to be crop and the value of crop to be faces, edges. This just means if there are faces in the image, they'll be used as a guide for cropping. If there are no faces in the image, the edges will be used as a guide. So going back to our site, we see that the camera is cropped. Let's see here. Yeah, I think, okay, here we go. So going back to our site, we see the camera's cropped to where we expect it to be. And we also see similar improvements to our hat photos. I'd like the camera to be a little bit bigger, so let's zoom in on that. And to do so, I'll be adding just more parameters to this particular example. So here I'm adding parameters that say I want to crop and zoom onto a specific focal point. So you see crop is set to focal point, and in particular, this FPZ means I want to zoom in on the subject. And now we can see that this camera is similarly sized as the rest of them. It's centered, and so things are already looking better and more uniform, which is what we're going for here. Moving on, let's see if we can improve our hat photos. I want to center the hats as much as possible. I want some padding around the face area, and I want to bring this wicker hat further into the foreground. And to do that, I'm going to set the fit to be face area. So it's going to capture and crop around the face area. and introduce some padding around the faces. And that's just to give me the nice centered look that I'm going for. And things are looking better already. Fantastic. So I think next we'll want to move on to these purses. See here, just a moment. Fantastic. So next we'll move on to these purses. They're a little low resolution, especially this Prada bag. So let's work on that. So to this, I'm going to add the upscale parameter to all of the purses at once. And we'll see how the resolution and quality has improved once we go back to our site. And again, I'm adding these here in JavaScript or TypeScript, but really I'm just adding query parameters to URLs at the end of the day. And we have SDKs to do this type of thing in multiple languages. So nice, they all look much better, even this Prada bag. So the last thing to do to tie everything together and to unify our minimalistic style that we have going on here is to remove the backgrounds. So we're going to navigate back to our Imgix React component and add this bg remove equals true parameter. This just says we want the background to be removed from the images. So now we see that all of the backgrounds have been removed from these images. And so now we're free to replace the backgrounds with whatever fill, gradient, or image that we want. And with that, I think that concludes this demo. I'm going to switch back. My slides. So, you don't have to become an expert in image transformation to get the most out of your images. We'll guide you through the process. We have plenty of blog posts and resources on our site for you to check out what we're doing and how we're doing it. And to use our service, you only have to connect your image bucket or wherever your storage is to our service, to Imgix. And you'll have a powerful platform at your disposal with SDKs, APIs, a CDN, and some analytical tools, and asset management. So, and in minutes, you can render and deliver the perfect version of your image to any device in the world, creating a truly delightful visual experience for your customers. To conclude, AI-powered image processing is becoming one of the most important web development applications. I hope that what we shared here helps you identify any new opportunities. To sign up, visit us at imgix.com. We have a free forever plan, and you can simply use the QR code on the next slide to navigate to that. If you need a demo or want to learn more about our AI features, email us at sales@imgix.com. Again, my name is Eric Sanchez. Thank you for being here with me. And I think now move on to questions. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. That was amazing. I feel like there's you're bringing the enhance mode that we see and have seen in movies forever to real life. It's a thing. It's always, I feel like it's been a joke in our space for a long time. And now it feels like we're on the precipice of this is kind of happening, which is very, very cool. Very cool. So anyways, great talk. I have a handful of questions, and for you folks out in the audience, use the questions tab on the right side of your screen and add your questions there. But let's go ahead and jump in. So one thing I wanted to ask you about was actually that last set of it was the purses, that Prada bag. When you changed the parameters, it looked like it added extra padding on the outside. Is that what happened, or was it just like because it changed the cropping that pink color was already there?
Yeah, let me see here. Give me 1 second. It may have just changed the cropping. And I'll go ahead and bring that up. We can look at it together.
Okay, great.
Okay, so Go ahead and add the upscale parameter. And you said that maybe you saw some new padding around it,
Yeah, that's
or
what I thought it was. It looked like it had been overlapped before that, and then it kind of moved it into the center a little bit. And I know we were talking more about like enhancing and background removal and
yeah.
all that. I was just curious if you're also able to, is it currently supporting like adding extra color when you have a solid color on the outside and need to focus more on the object in the center? Or you kind of
Oh
like
yeah, I
you are
mean,
you always subject to the bounds of the original bounds of the photograph?
yeah, so you can crop, you can add borders, you can add color borders, you can replace borders with images or whatever you'd like. And we have all kinds of other parameters that will help you do that. So to help you crop things in. But typically when you use the upscale parameter, it's just going to take the original image and make it up to 4 times bigger, increase the resolution, increase the number of pixels that are in it, which should give you a higher quality image.
Yes, definitely. And I it's also being home quickly because it just I launched a little site for a friend last week, and the thing I see a lot is people want to add logos to their site and they don't have the original artwork, and so we had these like 100 wide or 100 pixel wide images, and they just don't it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I'm very excited for this. Now one thing I saw was that um, you you had in the demos you had multiple rows, and in each of the row you kind of addressed that individually by adding those parameters. That was really, it was specific to, I mean, what you were doing was really specific to the type of image or the subject that was in that image. And that makes sense to me today. Like we need some human thought, or there's a manual effort in, hey, this set of subjects, I want to adjust the parameters in this specific way, and then it should work pretty well for all of them. I'm wondering if you see like what's the next step? Is there eventually a spot where it's going to be even more like helping you so that you could take all 4 of those rows at the same time and kind of like give it some instruction and it figures it all out in a very similar way?
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be wonderful. Like if you could just kind of all automagical and it makes it, look good by default, and you just say, hey, do this automatically. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. And that's the ideal. And that's the kind of future that these types of features are getting us talking about. I thought, I mean, it made me laugh when you mentioned that this is like the old school enhance feature. I can't tell you, like, when we were first developing this feature, we were deciding what to name the parameter. And that's what people said. They're like, oh, I wish we could just call it enhance. That would be hilarious. And, as we scope this feature out, we're wrapping up and we're getting ready to, push this out to production. And the thing that everybody was talking about was like, what's next? Like, what are we going to do next? How can we improve, especially this latest super resolution feature? And we're looking at trying to find ways of adding this for you automatically. So if you were to, it was kind of hard to notice, but when I did bring that wicker hat to the foreground of the image, it wasn't as high quality as it could have been, right? And so one option would be able to to recognize that on our back end and then automatically apply the upscale parameter for you, so that it's done for you. And when you request an image through our stack, you're going to get the best version of it at the end of the day. We are currently, I can't give away too much. Like, I'm not actually sure what I can say about like our future product roadmap, but we are actively working on some of these kinds of automagical things. And a lot of it involves detecting what is in the image to begin with. And so that's kind of where we're at, is in those early steps, detecting, classifying, categorizing what's in an image to begin with, and that's going to allow us to do some interesting things.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Excited to see where that goes for sure. For sure. Now, jumping over to background removal. So you mentioned in the talk that background removal, it's kind of a ubiquitous feature. If you have anything that's doing anything with images and even videos like Zoom or a lot of these video chat services can do the same thing. They can take the background out. What I have definitely seen is that there is still a wide range of how accurate that can how accurate that comes out. And certainly there's also a massive delta between whether it's an image or a video, and there's layers of complexity in there. But what I'm curious about is, how does Imgix is background removal stack up? How accurate is it today?
Yeah, so I'd say very. It's probably like I haven't found any other third party or service that is more accurate. Now for background removal, that is something that we rely on some third party software to deliver.
Okay.
Super resolution and a few other things we are doing in-house, but background removal is a very difficult AI or ML problem to tackle. So it is somewhere where you do kind of want to have experts handling these things. And our accuracy it's great. So, but there are guidelines, right? It's not perfect. I would say like 90% of the images that I give it to remove the background from, it's perfect. It's everything that I want. The next 5%, it may be gets me like 90, I don't know, like maybe 90% of the way, 85% of the way. But that's still good for our designers. It saves them, it still saves them time.
Yep.
In Photoshop. They can fire up Photoshop, do a little bit of touch up, and then you're done. But again, there are guidelines. There's some images that it's not going to work well on. One example is like I literally give it a forest of trees, and it does its best to remove the space between the trees, and but that's not really what it was trained on, not really what it was meant for. But for product images, it's really a piece of cake for it to get really great accuracy.
Okay. And yeah, totally makes sense about the forest. Now, so yeah, you said designers can take an image and then touch it up. And I don't think it occurred to me before now, but do you also have designers who would use Imgix really just to get that process started and get them 95% of the way to the finished image? And then do they pull it out, touch it up, and put it back in, and then to deliver it through your service to the front end of websites?
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely one workflow. I know that we end up not doing that so often, right? Like but it's possible, right? Like this is, we have served a lot of images with background removal. I would say like 99% of the time from customers, it's perfect. I think I have a Slack channel and I've gotten just a handful of images where it's like just doesn't work. They wanted to keep a few strands of hair or like some feather
right.
in the image that ultimately got removed, unfortunately. But these are like edge cases mostly. So our designer has been making a lot of marketing materials lately, and background removal just kind of does what she needs it to do, and it's easy. We're also a small shop too, so this is like a huge lift for people, and yeah, so that's not really a workflow that we've had to do, or many of our customers have had to go to, but it is an option, right? Just because it is an AI feature. It's not perfect. It can be difficult to. There are some images that it can struggle on, but those are edge cases.
But it seems like So one, it sounds like the goal for you is that yes, a designer can take it out and put it back in today if they want to, but ideally that's not happening, and it's not happening for most cases. And the other point that I heard there was that almost the benefit of relying on the third party who is focusing exclusively on this feature means that it's going to continue to get better while you work on maybe like higher level lifts for your customers. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have our core competencies. Again, we looked into doing this ourselves, and we got pretty good. Maybe like 80% accuracy, but
Okay.
this third party is like literally cutting edge. There's no one better than them, and yeah, I'm always impressed by the quality, accuracy, and the speed at which they can do this.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so over to AI tagging. So from what I saw, it was adding a few tags, but I'm wondering, is there kind of a what's the right way to ask it? Maybe is there a limited or finite set today, and or any way for users to influence that in some way? Maybe those are two different questions.
Yeah, no, they're definitely related. So the tags that we get, they're somewhat finite today. And I mean, they're good, right? But sometimes they could be a little general. Or maybe you'd like something more specific. We have either through our API or through our asset manager, you can go in and add your own tags and categories to things.
Okay. Okay. And then it can use those and apply them dynamically on the fly.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Now, what you showed us was all the way you were manipulating the images in the demo was all, and we kind of talked about, it was a manual process, but it was also from the developer's side of, or point of view. And that's mostly where I've had the experience in working with Imgix as well. But I'm curious, do you have folks that are passing this ability on to less technical folks, maybe the content editors for the website, and if they're doing that, how exactly are they, or like what it tends to be the common approach there?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're trying to do more of as time goes on. Historically we have been for dev, by devs for devs, and try to do this in the most developer friendly way possible. A lot of our customers are developers. When I do inevitably hop on a customer call, it's typically there's another engineer there, right, along with myself. But we'd like to make things easier for not necessarily non-technical people, but people who don't want to get into the weeds there. For them, I would say these days, probably like their best friend at the moment is our default parameters. So you can use our asset manager, our UI, and you can set parameters that you want for the whole source of images, and then those will just be applied automatically. So anytime you request them through an Imgix URL, you automatically get those parameters applied.
Okay. Okay. And so if you wanted to pass it on today, I mean, I guess you could come up with some sort of system where you say you added you added fields alongside an image picker in your CMS, and then people could select those, but it would be more of a manual process for the developers and probably specific to the website.
Yeah, definitely. Are you talking about adding things that change, transform the image, or adding pieces of metadata like adding, tags or something like that?
More transforming the image. I'm thinking of,
Okay,
back to the example where we have the content editor who's adding the 100 pixel wide images, basically being like, hey, as developers, we need to build these systems that people can add content to very flexibly, and we add guardrails where we can, but we're still at the mercy for people are going to work however they're going to work. And so what I'm thinking is, do you And so maybe this is a better way to phrase it. Have you found that usually developers can bucket the types of images in specific sections in a website, kind of like how you showed? So we say we know, or we've designed this so that we know the content editor is putting in only images of purses in this place, and so we can control the parameters in that way. Or if there's, say, a site, or maybe I'm thinking of even just like I mean, kind of like what you showed, where okay, it's an e-commerce site, but I have multiple different products that I want to show here, and so I might need to manipulate them individually, or manipulate the images individually. Do we pass that control on to the person who is also uploading that image?
Yeah, no, like, no, not, I would say like not, maybe not so much. There is still this like development component of what we do, right? At the end of the day, someone's going to add a parameter to a URL, whether that, whether they have a list of these URLs that live somewhere and they're adding it like that, or they're, diving into some code and adding them there. But again, for us, that's looking forward to the future. We're trying to make things more friendly for people, for exactly the people you're talking about.
Yes. Okay. Great. Now so it seems like also that your AI features it expects a source file, and then you're manipulating it from there. Our first presentation of the day from Jen Looper was really focused on generative AI, and then we got into some conversation on the ethics in there, especially as it comes to image generation, and how do you cite where it came from? Do you have to call it out and that sort of thing? I'm wondering if, with what Imgix is doing today, is there a line we're drawing somewhere? Like, this is not AI image generation because you have put the source file in here, or is it? I mean, we're still kind of figuring it out. Is this in a gray area? What's your take on that?
Oh, wow. I mean, yeah, that's really interesting.
It's a loaded question, I know.
Yeah, no, of course. Because even though an upscaled version of an image is, it's the same image content, right, that you want to show, but I guess it isn't the same image at the end of the day, right? It's a completely new image. And so there would, maybe someday there may need to be some sort of attribution attached to it saying like, hey, either tagged in metadata or otherwise, that this image is, has been generated by AI or something like that. I don't think that there's anything currently like that, other than it carries, the parameter can be self-documenting, right? If you use this upscale parameter, then that denotes this image as having been generated by AI.
That makes sense. That's right. I guess that's a really good point. So on one hand, someone had to serve the source image, like that had to come from somewhere, and two, that you're going to hang on to all of those parameters. So if you have a way, it's very transparent what is happening in the process, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Great. Well, I wanted to wrap by asking you about the introduction, because it felt like it was so interesting. So I'm curious, can you for 3 minutes of fun, can you tell us about the process and the company that you created in that program at Berkeley?
Oh my God. Yeah. So this is, didn't expect to be explaining this, but yeah, no, there's this course called Challenge Lab 185, and there's all kinds of different themes associated with it. The year that I took the course, it was Amazoogle, which is, using data as a foundation for building a company, or at least a part of it. And so, for 16 weeks, we would get up, we would have ideas and we pitch them, and we would, week to week, learn just how bad, college students, or we were at coming up with ideas, and 2, pitching, and then 3, trying to implement these things. Yeah, I was more on the technical end of things in my team, and so I thought, well, like, okay, let me create this new app. It's cool. It's kind of like these other things. Like maybe this is how we're going to go. And then we would get it in front of investors or VCs who were maybe they're more like in a mentorship capacity, and a few other people, and then the rest of the course a couple times a week to pitch these ideas. And then we would just kind of get criticized and told like how much they suck and they're not good. But fortunately, like probably towards the middle of the course, everybody started to solidify on things that were actually good. And one of the idea that we settled on and started implementing was this idea called like, we called it open space, which Berkeley's a big campus. There are a lot of students, and sometimes it's hard to find a spot to study on campus. And so our solution was to determine how many students were in a particular place when you wanted to go study. And so we would figure out, okay, there's this particular room or this place in the library. How many people are there? Is this occupancy conducive to me showing up to study? Because it's also a large campus. You typically have to walk like, it's like a 10 or 15 minute walk, right? Like it's not bad, but it's not nothing. And at the time, the university was putting in sensors on entries and exits to track this kind of thing. And so I think a part of like what made our idea successful was that we had actually talked to the university. There was funds set aside to actually do this work, and so it was just promising. And it's cool. And it was a fun time. Cool.
Yeah, I love that. And it seems like a great idea. And really, I mean, just I love that idea of like the holistic experience. So you have to come up with the idea, also implement it. Yeah, very, very cool. Well, Eric, this was fantastic. I love the presentation. I feel like there's some really exciting things happening at Imgix and some really exciting things to come too. So I'm looking forward to digging into some of these features.